Thursday, September the 30th. Lake level's about the same as it's been for probably the last month. It's 9:15 1/4. Hadn't been hardly any water flow. What little bit of generation they're doing's in the middle of the night. Water temperature is starting to cool down finally. It's still pretty warm for this time of year, but it was probably 75, 76 degrees this morning. And we got a chance of rain coming in tonight, and a pretty good chance of rain tomorrow. So I'm hoping we get a good cool rain, cool that water down. For the most part, fishing's been pretty tough. Before I get into the fishing report, the guys that have qualified for the Johnny Morris Bass Pro US Open, I just want to let you know that I know you've got an off limits and you can't talk to people about fishing to a certain, couple weeks before the tournament. But there's a website that you can go to. It's Table Rock Fishing Intel, and it's got a lot of daily information there as far as guides reporting where they caught their fish, how they caught the fish. They got a bunch of different videos on different patterns for this time of year. So anyways, it's a good source of information for those of you that can't get information from somebody, going up to the tournament. And also, if you're down here in the area, as far as tackle, if you're on the lake, Extreme Outdoors in Branson West, is anybody that's in that tournament, you're down here practicing. If you buy something at this store, put your name on your receipt. They're going to have a drawing right before the tournament. There's going to be like $100 gift certificates. There's going to be packages from Spro, 5 fish lure packages, and a lot of different other sponsors. I think there's even going to be a rod or two that they're going to give away. So if you're going to be buying tackle anyways, you just go to Extreme Outdoors and get a chance at winning something there. But, also as far as the tackle, you got Bait Works in Springfield, and then naturally you got the Big House, you got Bass Pro Shop. We've got a lot of places to get tackle in the area. Another little store on the lake is Catch 'em All Tackle down at Cape Fear. So if you get down to the lake, check these people out and support them if you get a chance. But anyway, as far as the fishing, I actually floated the Current River in Jack's Fork this weekend, so I didn't do much fishing this weekend. But the last few days and prior to that, there's a little bit of a whopper plopper bite, but it seems like you got to cover miles of shoreline. And, regardless of however I'm catching fish, it doesn't really seem to be an easy feat. Today, we started out in Ants Creek. We caught a few on a square bill and a spinnerbait early. And what I've been throwing for square bills, a couple different square bills, I've been throwing like a 2-point Strike King 2.5 that gets down about 5 or 6 feet. If I'm fishing really shallow where I'm picking up a lot of leaves and debris, I'll go to like a 1.5, or this is a Spro Russ Lane Fat Papa 55. A lot of shad looking crankbaits seem to be working best for me. But as far as the specific areas, I think, any place early, the first hour or so, there seems to be some fish up shallow, whether, on the main lake, in the creek arms, on a spinnerbait, and a little square bill, and, possibly a whopper plopper or like a Cyclone Junior. But this morning, we didn't get any topwater bites. What bites we got shallow was on the square bill and spinnerbait. Now, the upper river arms, I've been getting bit pretty consistent on a little square bill. And, a good place to go would be like Upper Flat Creek, Kings River, James River, Flat Creek. And I'm basically running way up the river. And the key in each one of them river arms is the bait. If there's some bait present, you can usually pick some fish off of any kind of laydowns or any kind of stobs or stumps that's out there on the flats. And most of them are in pretty shallow water, from, 2 foot to say 5 to 8 feet. Another bait we're throwing in them same areas is a spinnerbait. And I'm sure chatterbait will work. Now, I've been flipping a lot of that stuff with like a Texas rig Cinco, but I'm seem to be, a reaction bait seems to be working the best, whether it's a spinner bait or a little square bill. Now today we really struggled after the morning bite, after we got a few fish early. Went out and drop shotted several places, some boat docks. There are some fish out at the end of some of the deeper boat docks where you can take a drop shot out there. The fish are suspended 25 to 30 feet. But I fished several of them this morning that, usually produced. It didn't produce too much for me. So we took a white slab spoon, flipped it inside a lot of the stalls, and I could see fish under the dock, with my live scope. They were suspended about 20 to 25 feet over 50 foot, but, we couldn't trick them into biting. But that had been working a lot on these deeper docks where there's 30 to 50 foot of water out at the ends of the docks. And basically you got to throw your spoon up, between the boat lift and beside the boats, and just let it go down about, give it about a 15 or 20 count, and then work it back out of the stall real aggressively. If you do get that to work, whenever you get one bite, there's usually a group of fish, and you can get them fired up and catch several out of the same stall. But today we didn't have the best conditions for that. I prefer to do that on a sunny day, and we had an overcast, a little bit of wind. Should have been a perfect day for topwater, but apparently the fish don't read the same books that we do. But as far as on the drop shots, I keep it pretty simple. I use pretty much 3 different worms. I'll use a Chompers brown purple laminated 4.5 inch worm. I like the KVD Dream Shot in the Morning Dawn. It's pretty hard to beat, either one of those. There's been a shallow bite around some boat docks as well. But there again, it's kind of like throwing a crankbait in a whopper plopper. You got to throw, cover miles of shoreline to get a few bites. And the same with the docks. You got to cover a lot of boat docks to get a few bites. But the fish are quality fish. It seems like the docks in the creeks are working better for me than the ones out on the main lake. And I'm not catching too many way back in the creeks. It seems like I'm starting about half, 3/4 of the way back. And a few different jigs I'm throwing in there. One that seems to be working real well is a 5-fish ultimate finesse jig, and it's a magic craw. It's got a little green pumpkin with blue, and I'm using a Strike King Baby Rage craw, green pumpkin blue swirl in it. And that's what them whopper popper fish are feeding on, bluegill and black perch that are up there on the bank. And if there's some around them docks, that jig color is a good choice. Another one I'm throwing is ultimate cover jig. And the size on this I'm usually throwing is a 7/16. Fishing the walkways, the backs of the dock, and the stalls out to about 12 feet. I'm not fishing much deeper than 12 feet in them docks unless I'm way out there with a spoon. But another one that'll work good is if you want to throw a little bit bigger profile jig, is a 3/8 ounce cover jig. We got on to some fish, actually several fish, late this morning on a football jig. And it seemed like the color that was working best for us was a green pumpkin purple, or a PBJ with a little purple in it. Using a speed craw for a trailer, or a Strike King Rage craw, or even a baby craw. And a lot of those fish were about 18 to 25 feet deep. And we fished several brush piles. Couldn't get bit very much out of brush, but we started getting onto some gravel flats on the main river arms where there was a channel, either a main lake channel or a main river channel, or a channel that was going into a creek where it came up against the flat. Any place that made like a little point. And the fish were really grouped up when we started catching them. You'd get, several bites in one little area without even moving the boat. The first group we got onto was, several Kentuckys. There were several keepers in there. And then as we started to expand on what we was doing on the gravel, as we ran more gravel flats and points, we got into a few places that was mixed between largemouths and Kentuckys. You know, sometimes the boat might have been setting in 40 foot where it rolled off into a channel, but the key depth seemed to be in about that 22, 18 to 25 feet deep is how deep I think the fish were. Now, that was up in the James River arm today. Now, down lake, down by the dam in Kimbling City area, there's been smallmouth out in them same areas. A little bait to try out there would be like a little Ned rig, a 3/16 or quarter-ounce Ned rig, doing the same thing, a little green pumpkin, or like that little jewel pee-wee football jig will work out there. And even taking a little swim bait, which I threw quite a bit today, but if you're down there in that clear water, it seems like if you take that swim bait, set in the same depth, about 30 foot of water, cast it up to about 15, and let the swim bait go to bottom, and then just do a real slow retrieve, bouncing that bait off the bottom. I mean, this time of year, the fishing pretty much, I think it's really tough. You just got to keep an open mind, a lot of different baits on the deck, and keep mixing it up throughout the day. But, I keep saying that the bait is the key. Even out there on them, where we're catching them football jig fish, there was bait out there present. You could see bait flipping on the surface. Every once in a while, you'd see small schools of bait, and the bait may only be, 10 to 15 foot deep suspended, but that was the key to the areas where we got bites on the bottom. It seemed like there had to be bait present. Another thing, I know I've talked about this in the previous fishing reports, but these fish will get on these main lake secondary points and around these submerged cedar trees. Some of them are a little hard to find right now with the lake level like it is. But what we do is we take the Screaming Eagle, which is a half-ounce bait. War Eagle makes it. It's got quarter-ounce blades where you can run the bait real fast. We'll take and burn it by the top of a cedar right beside it, kill it right when it gets beside the tree. Pop, just stop it for a second and give the blade and skirt a chance to flutter out, then start your retrieve back up. But there again, it seems like you got to hit 100 trees to get a few fish. But if you do get bit in them trees, it's usually largemouth. In them same trees, you can throw like a wake bait or a walking bait, like a Strike King Sexy Dog or a Zara Spook. Just kind of mix it up between a spinner bait, swim bait, or topwater around them submerged trees. And the best ones, they stand out like a sore thumb. They'll be on a little point, all by themselves, one tree. Unfortunately, to get to another one that just looks just like that, you got to run several different creeks and several different arms to find one that sets up like that. But hopefully this rain come in, cool the water down, get the fish a little bit more active, a little bit more predictable. But I'm noticing that thermocline in some areas is starting to break up, which a lot of times is really not a good thing, because it'll take a lot of them fish that are down there at 30, 35 feet, and it's going to scatter them. But I have not found a bunch of fish that are piled up in that 30, 35 foot area. To me, they're already scattered. So thermocline, what that's going to do is it'll bring some of them fish up out of that deeper water, get them into shallower water. And then some of them are actually going to start to go deeper yet. So, till next week, good luck, good fishing.